Hey y'all, I'm James Wright, and today we're going to be working with this. Yeah, one connection, 3 augers. This is going to be fun. So this is a really devilish looking tool, and it's interesting because as you rotate this, all 3 of those rotate, with each one rotating opposite the one past. This particular one is very, very tight. But this was designed for creating mortises, and originally windows would have these weights that would hold the bottom sash up and down, and the ropes would go from the sash up through a pulley and then into a weight inside the wall. And what you would have is a pulley like this that would be mounted into the window sash, and then the rope would come from the weight up and then into the wall. But to create the mortise for this, rather than actually chiseling it out, they would create these pulleys with the rounded face. So you could actually mortise it with one piece, drill them out, pop that in, and you're good to go. So let's restore this thing and actually give it a try. As with a lot of restorations, I kind of had an idea of what was inside of this, but I didn't really know. And I was really kind of intrigued to find out what makes this tick. And, you know, is it multiple things inside? Are there a whole bunch of gears? Is there grease boxes? I don't know. So we're going to grab our hand tool rescue screwdriver and start popping these open. I love this thing because I can get a wrench on here and really crank them down. This one was pretty tight, and you can see just how much gunk was in there. This was full of dead polymerized oil, and it was just tight. And, oh, that's all that's inside? Wow, that's pretty simple. There's no bearings, no babbitt, no nothing, just metal on metal and really simple design. Okay, let's work with this. So the first thing we're gonna do is kind of clean it all out. We're gonna get rid of all that gunk and sawdust that had built up in there. I like to use soap that has a mild abrasive in there. It helps you get into the corner and clean out all the gunk. And then we can rinse it all off, and we want to make sure we dry it off as quickly as we can because we don't want any flash rust in this. And then I realized, oh, there's even more gunk down in there. And we're going to just get rid of most of this. And usually at this point, then I'm going to take it over and I'm going to put it in some sort of rust bath, such as ease or something else of that nature. But in this case, there really isn't that much to it, and there really isn't much rust on it. It's just years of gunk. So we're going to take this over to the wire wheel. And I love using this because if you don't push it too hard, you can leave a lot of the patina on there, but get rid of anything that is a problem, especially with the bearing surfaces in this. Then it cleans it up very, very quickly. It was really only about 10 to 15 minutes to do this whole thing, and you've got a piece that's basically ready to come back together. A few of these had a little bit of problems. Some of the threads needed to be chased out a little bit more because they were, well, full of more gunk. In this case, I drove the screw through and it pushed out gunk on the inside, and then I ended up actually finding a tap that fit in and clean them out nicely. So we want to basically take every piece and go at it one by one, and it's really happy and well, very pleasing, as you can see the difference between done and not done. And I need to be careful with the small pieces because if you don't, they go flying when the wire wheel catches them. So a lot of times just holding on them with a pair of vice grips or pliers makes it a lot easier. Some of these screws had a good bit of material that had mushroomed out, and so I come at them with a fine file, and if I really wanted to go at them, then I could take them over to the strop and polish them down, but I'm not looking for anything amazing. I'm just looking for something that is functional and will last a few more years. We're going to sharpen up these augers, and if you don't want to do that, I've got a bunch of videos on it showing how you can actually sharpen them. These are actually not standard augers. They are what's called a center point, and they have a nicker on one side, a brad point in the middle, and then on the other side there is a blade that removes everything in between that the nicker leaves. I'm going to come at this with some oil and start cleaning it down and making sure that there's a protective coat on this, because if I don't, any moisture that gets on there, it's going to immediately flash rust, even if there's a moist environment in the air. I really like using this antique improver. It helps clean the surface and keep it rust free while still keeping some of that patina and appearance in there. So we can start putting these pieces in there and making sure that they all fit. And look, this one's tight and the other one's loose. That means that these actually had individual places. Each one of these were sized one for the other, which was kind of surprising. The middle one is pretty obvious. The middle goes in the middle and then the side goes on the other side, but they go opposite so that one only fits on one side and the other one only fits on the other side. And then you want to make sure that the augers line up so that they're at 90 degrees on either side of one.
it was surprising the amount of engineering that went into this and the amount of work that functioned. It was really kind of cool. So we're going to add some oil, a little bit of grease in the inside tray, not much at all, because I don't want it to cake up with dust in the future. And then we can make sure that everything is actually functioning. I'm going to put some screws in and lock this down. And unfortunately, I found out on this one, if you tighten the screws all the way down, it actually locks down on those. And so I had to turn them off just a hair. Each one was only like a 16th of a turn off. And you can see I was cranking them down to begin with and then realized, oh no, it won't turn. What do I do? So I could have actually put a small shim in there, but I found just relieving the pressure from the screw a little bit helps that fix that out. You can see there's 3 oiling points on there, so we can fill those up and make sure the chases are ready to oil. It's also, when it's standing up, there's oiling points on the top as well. I need to put a rod onto this so that it doesn't turn. And at this point, I was kind of interesting to see, because it's got this tapered square head. Can I use this with a brace? It was designed to work with the beam drill or a post drill, but I want to see, could I use this in the field to do this? And so I put the rod on there, and I have to hold onto the rod and then turn it. And so you really kind of need a 3-hand operation to do this. And I thought, well, I just need more pressure. And I'm also having to use the large brace because you're removing a lot of material. So if I put it horizontal and put my weight into it, then I can run it with 2 hands. But then it started to wander and wobble, and I thought, well, I'll just put it down on the ground and see if I can put my weight on top of it and put the rod into something so it wouldn't turn. And it still wasn't quite working. You need to put a lot of force in this to make it work. Even with the nice sharp bits, these aren't going to be augers that pull themselves into the work. And so I was trying to make it happen, but in the end, no, this isn't the way it was intended to work. So we can put it here into the beam drill, and you can see how the rod sticks out. And in this case, I just have it running into the wall. Normally, it would turn and tap into the post drill behind it. But you can see how this runs in here. And I could just let the machine advance on, but I'm going to, in this case, use my left hand to drive it down on, and I absolutely love it. You can see how these curls coming out make it look really simple and clean. And then you can drive the pulley down in. And this one's a little bit more tight, so I'd probably come back in and tweak it a little bit. We also do have to drill in a couple holes on either side to allow it to sit recessed and flat. There are other styles that you could buy where the auger has 2 other bits on the end that don't go in as far, and will actually cut these out for you. But this one does not have that. You can see how you can pound it down in flush, and it's got these little tabs on the side that actually make it point into it, and it's a fascinating little design. They put a lot of thought and effort into it. You can see how this would then be in the window. The string would come through from the sash and then down to the weight on the other side, and it would run back and forth. Now, it would not be a string like this, but this is all I had in my hand right now, just to see how does this work. And I really had a lot of fun with this. This is a great way to learn and experiment and see what did history actually have. But in this case, it's a fun tool that did a really interesting job that we don't really use anymore, but almost makes me want to. Maybe I should make a window.
So there you have it. This is a simple tool that was used a lot in windows and doors, and they came in a bunch of different styles. You'd have some that would actually have up to 5 bits that could cut out the mortise for a lock that would go in the edge of a door. This one is designed for the pulley that would go in a window, and so you'd have different designs for different ones, and every manufacturer of these would then also make the pulleys or locks that would fit them exactly, because you would want to use theirs and no one else's, right? I've wanted to show one of these off for a while, and I'm probably going to go into a little more detail on a Thursday video sometime. Someday I'd actually like to build a full window and put in all the original hardware and weights and ropes and do all of the trim and molding and sash work. I think that would be kind of fun, and to use one of these. But I got a pretty good deal at one of these at an MWTCA meet, and it came with the pulley, so I figured to play with it and try it out and see what it does. It's kind of fun. Now this one actually comes with a tapered square head, and so that's why I was experimenting with trying it with the brace, because it was kind of one of those odd things that it should freak that. It kind of does, but you need a lot more pressure. And that's why it was designed with a 1/2-inch shank, so that you could go and put it in a post drill. It makes it a lot easier, so you can let the machine put the pressure on it rather than you putting the pressure on it. It's kind of fun. So if you'd like to see more on this, let me know. Throw your comments down below, and thank you. That actually helps out the channel. Anytime you comment, like, share, subscribe, any of those buttons down below, thank you. It really means a lot. And we are completely sponsored by you guys. And speaking of which, there's a bunch of names over here. Those are some of the patrons on Patreon. And between patrons and members, You guys keep us going. So thank you for that. If you'd like to find out more and help us buy odd things like this to show off, then think about becoming a patron member or click the thank you button down below. I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. If this is boring, this is really boring.